ended up upcycling the sails from the boats. I actually got this idea because there's a very famous and someone I look up to a lot, designer called Christopher Rayburn, which in 2009 and started upcycling parachutes. And I was like, okay, if he upcycles parachutes, maybe I could upcycle the sail. And I started experimenting there. And it turned out that I opened the door to a whole new world of materials that I could upcycle.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to my youth channel, Say Something with Mads, once again. Today, it's going to be a very interesting conversation. Every conversation is important, every conversation has something new, and it's always so meaningful and get a new perspective about so many things. Today, I am especially excited because I have someone joining from a far off country which I have never visited, and I wish to visit it once. Let's welcome our guest today, Jimena Gárate. I hope I pronounced your name well. Correct. Thank you so much for joining. And it's a pleasure. We'll listen to her journey. It's going to be amazing. First of all, welcome to my channel.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm so excited to be here. I've never been to India either, so it's really interesting to connect with someone of a country you've never been there. So I'm excited to get to know you and for people to get to know a little about my project too, called Veleta.
Yes, that's the whole point of these interviews, which we publish week after week. And I wish more and more people subscribe to this only youth channel, I think, where the focus is on youth and what they are doing and what's their mindset. So, yes, first and foremost, I want Yamina to talk about herself, talk about her journey, talk about her school, her education, her family, and a little bit about the beautiful city where Mexico City, where she lives. I am very interested to know about your background and what is it that you are currently doing. So over to you, and let's hear it from the horse's mouth, as they say. I don't want to introduce her; let her introduce herself. Over to you.
Perfect. So my name is Jimena Gárate. I'm from Mexico City, born and raised here. And one thing I love about my city, it's a chaos, but it's a beautiful chaos. I think that's what makes it so interesting. And if you come with that perspective, I think you will enjoy it as I do. And also be really aware of the sounds. I think my favorite thing about Mexico City, even though it gets a little bit loud sometimes, the sounds are what makes it very interesting to visit as well. So I would put attention to that, and also details. It's full of little details that make it really special to visit. My project actually started when I was 10 years old. It didn't start when I was in fashion school. When I was 10 years old, I went to a camp that was really exciting for me, a school camp. That it was the camp where they taught us how to sail for the first time. And it was the first time I also sailed solo without my father. And it was amazing. But all of a sudden, a strong wind came the second day of our trip. And every single sailboat with my friends on it started drifting, and they were screaming and everything. And to me it was like the perfect experience, because I told my friend that I was sailing with, I was like, we're not gonna do this wrong. We have to see what to do. And we that's where I understood how the wind came, and how we had to manage the sail and the water, and how you could like see how the wind was behaving through the water. And we ended up not turning around, but not going into the rock. So to me that was a perfect experience to understand that connection we have with nature. And it stood with me throughout middle school, throughout high school. And when I went to fashion school, I had to do a thesis collection with 6 looks. And I had 2 things in mind. Obviously, sailing. I wanted to express sailing through clothing, but also I was really aware of the impact of the fashion industry in the environment, but as well as socially. By that time, while I was in school in Bangladesh in Rana Plaza, um, it collapsed.
Yes.
So we already knew about that incident, and we already knew that brands were outsourcing and people were not were not like being treated
Which
the way they should. And this thing about transparency that started coming up with fashion revolution, and I was like, okay, I know 3 things. I wanted to do about sailing, but I don't want to use new materials. And I want to talk about the dark side of the fashion industry, especially the fast fashion industry. So I ended up upcycling the sails from the boats. I actually got this idea because there's a very famous, and someone I look up to a lot, designer called Christopher Rayburn, which in 2009 and started upcycling parachutes. And I was like, okay, if he upcycles parachutes, maybe I could upcycle the sail. And I started experimenting there. And it turned out that I opened the door to a whole new world of materials that I could upcycle, which were paragliders, wetsuits, camping tents, tires. And my thesis ended up being the 3 things that I was more interested in. And also, among my peers, there was a lot of about all the research I did about the impact in the garment in the in the garment workers. I think that's what I get the most about my thesis, that among my peers and my school, there was a lot of awareness about what was
mm,
happening. Because even though we
mm,
knew about Rana Plaza, we didn't understand the impact that it had on the people that make our clothes. My school, there was also something that I considered my passion, which was costume design. I decided that I was going to do costume design, leave Veleta to rest. And I did costume design for 2.5 years and ended up being really frustrated because the industry is never gonna be as sustainable as I want it to be. It's a lot of styling and buying from fast
mm.
and are only gonna be worn once, maybe twice. So I was like really troubled with that. And that's where I said, okay, maybe I need to go back to explore Veleta a little bit more and how it can thrive as a business. And that started in 2020. At the end of 2020, I did this bag called Victoria. Victoria means victory in Spanish, but it's also a name, Victoria. And Victoria is my best friend, and she said like, "How much money do you need to start this? I'll give it to you because I trust you and I know you need it." And Victoria, because also in 2020 we were going through COVID, and to me, anyone who was alive and thriving with mental health and everything we went to was already a victory for us as humanity, I think. So I released this bag called Veleta, which was made out of parachutes, no, paragliders, entirely out of paragliders. And that was for me to understand how, which was a lot of exploration and fun and things that might not work in the real world. And I wanted to see how Veleta could sell its way through the real world as a business. And with that bag, I then started doing pouches, and then I was like, okay, I'm good here. And then I started doing bags, other type of bags, and then some handkerchiefs. And now I feel like I'm ready, now that I understood everything about how the business is going and how it works. How can I make it into clothing again, which is what my passion is, and what I really get goosebumps about designing. So I'm right about to give that step.
Yeah. As I was listening to you, most fascinating, and I must tell my audience who is listening, I would post her website link. It's amazing. It has so many, as she said, it has pouches, it has that bandana, which is very cool. The pictures I was looking, but I was most fascinated with the jumpsuits and the jackets, and which you are. They are so good looking. They are so wearable. So, right up front, I want to take you back a little bit from the time. Why fashion industry? Where did you have anyone in the family who was into fashion? What made you? Did you sketch always when you were in school? Did you like dressing up yourself, your friends? How fashion? Why did you choose to be in doing fashion as a subject, as a study?
Okay, so I love this question because it was a whole journey getting to fashion. Since I was a kid, I loved dressing up. Yeah, but also like I had a style which was a hat and these huge sneakers always in shorts. That was like, and I had so much fun with it. But I think through middle school, I got into film. I was like, I'm gonna be a filmmaker. I want to be a
Okay.
filmmaker. And everyone was like, are you sure? We think you love fashion, but are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I love fashion, but I think I want to do fashion films.
Okay.
So I started when I went to university. My first semester was in film, and that's where I realized, like, maybe film's not what I love about like the film industry. I think it's costume design. So within the same university, you have the opportunity to change careers, and I did, and I went into fashion, but I was really, really scared. And if there's anyone here that wants to try fashion and doesn't have like this fashion background, I did not know how to draw. I still
Mm,
have a hard time drawing. I'm gonna be super honest. I've never in my life touched a needle and a thread, but I thought and I think right now, and this is what I love about design, that you don't need to draw. I think it's more about the ideas and exploration. Definitely,
mm,
I mean, those are resources. You're gonna learn how to draw in fashion school. Maybe it's gonna be harder. For me, it was incredibly hard. Now I know how to draw, but it's not like my strength. And there's people
mm.
that are born drawing and illustrating and they're great at it, which is great. But this is just like a tool for you to understand what you want to create and stuff, and just learn it. Don't stress about it and use it as you wish. But if your thing is more like using the textile on yourself, or collage, or whatever it is for you, that's what it works. And you are going to learn how to use a sewing machine. So
Mm.
don't worry about it. Like, it's more
Yeah,
about your background. My thesis collection was about saving. It wasn't about anything more. And the more like personal the stuff is, I or like the more deep you go into yourself, I think that's the more you're gonna get
that's
out of
amazing.
any
Yeah.
design career. Yeah.
So it comes from your soul. You were connected to the sea, and you connected to connected it to the fashion. I think that came naturally. But the material which you use is so unique. I think no one would just think like, okay, I want to play with these kind of material, the sails and the paragliders material which are used for gliding, all those material to be used for clothing. Tell me, what are they? These, I'm asking from absolutely layman point of view. how are these material to work with? Are they very good for stitching, cutting, etc., or do you think they are tough material to handle as compared to other material which is traditionally available?
So the sails, there's two kind of sails that are really like rough materials, and there's another one called spinnaker, which is like silk. It's the most amazing material. But the other two are really hard to work with, but are amazing. The results are just, to me,
Okay. Oh,
incredible. But someone always says, like, there's always a customer like, why is it so expensive if it's upcycled? But like, I have to recover the material. That takes time. I have to get it here to Mexico. I just don't go to the fabric store and buy the first fabric I see. Then I have to clean it, and I have to inspection it to see if it works, if it's too old, maybe it's like it's already burned by the sun, or if it's like a nice material to work with. And then I have to prepare the material, which means that most materials, meaning paraglider, kites, and parachutes, I have to make them work to have two flat like fabric, because I have these fabrics sewn vertically, and I have to
mm,
take them, I have to remove them, and that
okay,
takes up to like 12 hours if I do
okay.
it alone. We do it like two people, we spend like 6 to 8 hours preparing the material for it to be used. So that
Oh,
makes it harder. But
yeah.
and in terms of functionality, I think the sales, even though they worked great in my thesis, they wouldn't be able to work as a clothing in the real world, but as accessories they work amazing. And I've that's also part of like the journey I've had to,
Yeah.
okay, this one works but this one doesn't, how could we make this one work for this, or just don't bother and don't use it for clothing and stuff. So
Mm.
it's been nice, a nice journey.
So my question to you is, those you were talking about those the variability factor. You when you make something, do you try it on yourself? Do you have people who try it and see how it feels? How is the color? Do you have to put any outside? Do you have to put some other material along with it to make it attractive looking? Or what kind? I'm talking about the jackets. I'm talking about jackets and the jumpers. So, so yeah.
Yeah, so in this collection the material just went like that. It had no lining.
Interesting. And what would you say is your highest selling product? Like people keep buying this again and again. Which ones?
The pouches are definitely the bestseller product right now. But I think once the jackets come out, I already made the jackets, and I've tried it. I tried it over, like, it's a unisex piece. So I've tried it on women and men, and I always ask them for their feedback, and I've made some changes, and it's been taking me a lot longer than I thought, but that's because I've been asking a lot of people what they think about it. How does it feel? I've done some adjustments, and now that it's ready next year, it's going.
Right. um, I also want to get into the finance of a business. Where is the money coming from? Are you making enough to put it back in your business, or are people from outside is investing in your business? How does that work? I think that's the most worrying, right? Once you start a business, the money part, where how it is coming every day, that's the most worrying part rather than the designing part that comes naturally to you. So, who is looking after the finance? Do you have a team or you do it yourself?
So since I started, it was my money, my friend's money, and some of my mom's money who invested in my idea. And since it was just one bag, and just the website, I was like doing okay. Like the whole money came back and it was like circling and circling and circling. And ever since I've been launching new products and stuff, it's been just like circling the money.
Okay.
Last year, I had a small investment from my mother again to release like the new accessories. I was changing the logo. I did like a rebranding and I needed some help. So she helped me with that. And ever since, it's been like reinvesting. And in the beginning of next year, I'm gonna ask for a bigger investment because I want to release the clothing collection, and that's gonna take time. And I'm also looking for a place to like a workshop. Right now, everyone thinks I have a workshop. They ask me like, "Can I come visit the workshop?" But I right now the workshop is my dinner table and my yeah. So it's
Right.
impressive how many brands work like that. Like we
Yeah.
design within our apartments, houses, and
Yeah.
then when there's a chance you actually get to have a workshop. But for now it's not the case. And next
Right.
year I think I'm ready to take it to the next level to actually start taking this more seriously
Lovely.
and betting a lot more.
This is an amazing journey. It's so full of challenges, but when you overcome one and then you see where it is going, when you look back where you have come till now, must be very, very satisfying, but a long way to go. I wanted to ask you this before, but let me ask this now. Where do you source your material from? You said it doesn't come locally. So how do you source your material?
So very near to Mexico City, there's a place called Valle de Bravo. It's really known. It has a big lake, so it's known for sailing and paragliding. So that's where I source most of these two materials. It's an hour away from Mexico City.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. So, if you had not sourced this material, what usually happens to these waste materials which are no more usable? So, what happens to them? Do somebody other than you also use them in Mexico, or how is it? Where does the material go?
I think there's now more and more an upcycling sale, especially sales. I haven't seen it with kites. I know, yeah, kites. There's one other guys doing it in Merida, and and some of that, like some people that are doing it, but like mainly those materials, if they don't get upcycled, they are used as covers for like boats,
Yeah.
or now that people
Okay.
see they can do clothing, they kind of do like 10 jackets and then that's it. But it's not like an ongoing project. So
Okay.
yeah, Veleta has been gaining attention, and hopefully it
Yeah,
will get
I'm
more
sure.
people to donate material.
So I was just going to ask you how you are kind of. I'm just asking a silly question, maybe, but just let me know. Like, are you a very sought after person in Mexico? Like, people want you to talk to the young people, and you are kind of influencing people's mindset about changing the way they look at clothing, sustainable clothing. Are you kind of a role model in your city?
In my university, I guess, yeah. I don't know about like Mexico City and stuff, but people like I've been on some contests and some I did a residency in a place called Laguna, and a lot of people got to know Veleta, and also I work with people that work at that place that have different like a furniture brand, and I work with them to upcycle their wood chips.
Oh,
And
okay.
I worked with, yeah, with another brand to upcycle their their textile waste, and another brand to an architect to make a chair. So it's been like nice to get to know how it
Oh,
can
wow,
thrive
that's
in different
amazing.
spaces.
Right, tell
Thank
me if you are selling now through only websites, or you are in any shops, or you sell it in kind of brick and mortar stores.
So right now I'm only doing it on my website, but this year, since May, I started selling at one boutique here in Guadalajara, which is another city, and to see how it worked, like how
Mm,
this system where you give your products and they take some percentage, how it work, does it work for me? If this
mm,
is a kind of business model that I want to do it, okay. So I thanks to that I had to like do a re redo the pricing on all the products because I hadn't done that. I hadn't considered that that was a business model I was going to do it with. So yeah, I right now it's one store, and I'm for next year I think I'm looking to get it into another stores in Mexico.
mm. For that kind of production also needs to be a lot more if it starts selling suddenly. So you have to increase the rate of production, and you have to keep a lot of SKUs. People ask for a lot of different sizes, different colors. So you have to do all that planning also if you are starting to sell in shops, right? If I have to ask you about some book recommendations, I know you read a lot. What would those books be which inspires you and which you can share with my audience?
I love this question because I do read a lot. The one book I always recommend, and I think it's a really short but amazing book. It's Ikigai
Yeah.
from Hector Garcia and Francesc Miralles,
Yes.
and it's amazing. I think everyone should read it at least once in their lives. Also, The
Yes.
Hidden Life of Trees of Peter Walpen.
Yeah, The
Yeah,
Hidden Life of Trees. Yes, now I got. Oh, lovely. Right. What does it book talk about?
it's about how forests works and trees work and how they communicate and how it's incredible. I think it's one of the most amazing books. And also, like, I think this one wasn't changed my life. It's called Half Earth.
Okay.
Oh,
No, I can't.
I'll
You
send it
have
to
to.
you.
Half Earth.
By Edward O. Wilson. Is one of the most amazing people on this earth.
Right.
He's a
Two.
biologist.
Okay. Right. Lovely. I got three recommendations, right? Ikigai, Hidden Life of Trees, and Half Earth. Amazing. And I wish people who are listening start at least thinking about these alternative forms of clothing, also buying things from people who are not selling it in big shops, and maybe buy simple pouches, merchandising from people who are giving it so much thought to make, recycle, upcycle, and give them the opportunity to be a part of your life and use their products. If I may, I wish I can procure from you sometimes, and I want this to grow to a biggest brand. We can import it to India, maybe someday, who knows. So thank you so much for being here, and it was an
Thank
amazing conversation. And with this, we come to the end of today's talk show, and next week, see you again with another guest. And today, I will not end my talk with a sustainability quote, which I usually do, because this whole episode was about sustainability and sustainable clothing. Look at alternatives like Veleta is providing you wherever you are staying. Thank you so much for being here once again, Shamina. Bye bye.